Good morning and welcome to He Sees Us All YouTube channel. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about the Caravan reaching the U.S. border. Well, more so I want to talk to you guys about the images and the video clips that all the news agencies are currently jamming down all of our throats. Fox, CNN, ABC, RT, basically any major news broadcasting agency that you can think of is currently showing us image after image and clip after clip of people at the supposed fence at the supposed United States border. You see, I found a major issue with all of the imagery that the agencies are force-feeding us right now, and this is because I came across and used these same images myself in my 11/11/18 video. And I'm going to play this for you guys real quick. Alright guys, so this is my channel, and these are all my videos. This is my video on 11/11/18 World War III. I made an observation of what the news has been showing us recently. I made this video on October 29th of this year, October 29th, 2018, and in the description box I wrote, I am only making observations of our reality here. This is not a prediction. 11/11/18 has held importance in the past, as in World War I and Armistice Day. If you watch this video, go give it a watch if you haven't, and you'll understand what I mean. I made another 11/11/18 video that goes further into detail about the car and the French president, and just check out both videos if you want more details on that. But 11/11/18 has held importance in the past, and history tends to repeat itself. Also, 11/11/18, as in 11/11/2018, can be broken down into 11/11/11. If you have 11/11 and then 2018, 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 8 equals 11. So there you have your 11/11/11, which to me is, you have your pillars, your twins. It's a major red flag. It should be a major alert for everybody to pay attention to. Now, what I noticed here is the imagery being used today, yesterday, the day before, for the past few days of the Caravan reaching the U.S. border. They're using the same imagery that I came across when I was putting together this video a month ago. So when did they reach this fence? Was it just 3 days ago, or did they reach this fence back in October? Because I got my hands on this imagery back in October. So it's interesting that they're using this. It just goes to show that it's all a show. It's all a play. And even in another clip that I'm showing you guys, the man is breaking down right before our eyes. Polarization's happening right before our eyes. So, is it really crazy to be said that there's another species living among us and they're trying to destroy us? I don't think it is that crazy. I think there's technology that we can't even understand, and it's being used against us. And right now, they're just showing us how stupid, the majority really is, because they're showing us imagery that was available a month ago, saying that this is them reaching the border now. This isn't them reaching the border now. I thought this was them reaching the border in South America, but apparently it's not. Apparently, I am some kind of magician, and I was able to produce this photo a month ago for you guys, and here it happens now. I don't know. I just, I wanted to show you guys. It's all a game, obviously, because, like I said, this video, I posted it a month ago. You could check my description box, October 29th, 2018. This is the same image. It's the next video clip that I'm going to show you after this one is where the news anchor breaks down during his report. I also wanted to note that World War I ended on 11/11/1918 at 11 p.m. So there was the 11/11/11 code then, and 11/11/2018, I just mentioned in the video I played how the 11/11/11 code is embedded in that date as well. I see these coincidences or signs, I would say, or even flags, you could call them. They need to be acknowledged. I have a couple of articles that I'm going to show you guys about the different meetings that took place and what may end up making 11/11/2018 significant yet still. And I want you to pay special attention to how they're actually working Armistice Day itself into all of this. Again, these are those weird coincidences or red flags that I feel we must all keep our eyes peeled and open for. We must remain vigilant in these situations. Pay attention, people. Pay attention to what you're being told. But But first, let's play that really weird clip. Also, when he breaks down right in the middle of the breakdown, he looks a lot like Ryan Reynolds, and I just wanted to throw that in there. It's got nothing to do with anything. I just thought that it was a little humorous, and I thought I'd give you guys a little chuckle, so just pay attention to when he really breaks down, because he looks just like Ryan Reynolds. And I found this just because I was compiling evidence about them lying to us, and that I've had these fence images for quite some time myself already, and I ended up coming across this and finding something I would say much bigger. And to someone who's more spiritual, I would say that I ended up providing more evidence that these are demonic entities or reptilian entities that are in control of all this, and they're the ones that are putting on this show. But keep your eyes open for Ryan Reynolds' appearance. Alright guys, this is the news broadcast that I came across with the guy who breaks down. It's this news anchor here. He's giving a report. I'm only using this because I want to show you guys that this is the same fence that I used in my 11/11/18 video a month ago. So when did they reach this fence? Was it a month ago or was it 3 days ago? They're lying to us and they're laughing right in our faces as they do it. But I couldn't just pretend to not see what I was seeing when I watch this broadcast. He's breaking down in some way. Kninigan, man, if you see this, tell me, did I catch what I think I caught? I believe that reptilians are demonic entities, personally. I believe that, maybe in the reptilian form, that is the demonic form, and then they take on a human form or even possess a human in some way. But here's the clip. I'm going to play this for you guys. Again, this clip is for the fence, but I couldn't just pretend to not see what I saw, so. And right before it happens, he glitches out a bit.
Part of local residents here in Tijuana have criticized the presence of the migrant caravan, but the overwhelming majority
again, under 30
have shown
seconds.
a compassionate and humanitarian reaction of have had.
Here's the glitch,
to their
and now look at, he's breaking down.
Some people in
polar
Tijuana
crystallization, right? Breaking down,
the
and then poof, he's fine. Now here's where I was looking for, this is the whole reason I was watching this video, was about this fence, because I keep seeing news organization after news organization after news organization showing me the same damn fence, over and over and over again. This is the same fence that I put in my 11/11/18 video on October 29th. So, how did I have this image if they just reached this fence 5 days ago? I swear, they're lying to us and they're laughing right in our damn faces. And I feel that the Code 1111 can be two things, really. One, it could be a way for these entities to signal one another that now is that time. Kind of like when all the celebrities were recorded saying time's up to one another in reference to sexual assault in Hollywood. I personally think that line or that term, time's up, had much more of a spiritual and a deeper meaning to it, and that these entities were using it to communicate with one another that now is that time for the final war. Secondly, maybe 1111 is literal computer code embedded in God's program, like literal code, and 111111 is some kind of evolvement or war key. Have you ever noticed the scenario maybe replay itself before? Here's an example for you. Just last week was my mom's birthday, and my family took my mom out to Chili's to celebrate. And while we were waiting for my parents to show up, my husband and I were discussing this light fixture that was right above us and it possibly falling, the things that were holding it together. We were talking about the glass jars, how they were off kilter and off balance. And I even brought up how an earthquake would be the only thing that would make these glass jars fall and hit us in the head. So my parents show up later, and while my husband and I are talking to the waitress and ordering our food, I overhear my parents having the same exact conversation that my husband and I just had, all the way down to the earthquake scenario. Now, sometimes I feel that coincidences are far too coincidental to be ignored, and this is exactly how I feel with this entire Caravan situation. Now, if we were in some kind of computer simulation, a computer would reuse scenarios. It would reuse numbers, it would reuse dates, and it would reuse scenarios. And that little coincidence of the conversation my parents having matching my husband and mine to a T was one of those weird scenarios. And again, I want you guys to pay attention to the fact that they mention Armistice Day in one of these articles. about the coming European army. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think that they're mentioning Armistice Day with an alternative motive. This is an article from Time magazine titled French President Emmanuel Macron calls for a European army to defend against China, Russia, and the US. This is another article about the coming European army. I felt that I had to post these articles because I had some trolls on my 11/11/18 video who thought that I was just making all this crap up and pulling it out of my butt. So I figured I'd post some proof. I didn't want to read all of these articles because it would just take too long, so I put up the Time magazine title one, and then I put up this one. This one's from the Independent UK. It says the Independent US down here, but it was independent.uk.org or something like that. I'll try to remember to link both these articles in the description. But in this article it says Trump attacks Macron's call for EU army to defend against US is very insulting, and I chose this one because this is the one that mentions Armistice Day. Donald Trump has hit out a call from French President Emmanuel Macron for the creation of a European army to protect the continent from China, Russia, and the US, labeling the idea insulting. Earlier this week, Mr. Macron called for the creation of a true European army to allow the EU to defend itself from threats including Russian President Vladimir Putin and President Trump. Now, it's interesting that they feel that they need a European army and that they feel that the Russian President Vladimir Putin and President Trump are a threat to the European nations. That's definitely something that we need to pay attention to. We have to protect ourselves with respect to China, Russia, and even the United States of America, Mr. Macron told France's Europe 1 radio in an interview. So they see us as a threat. In a tweet before arriving in Paris for a weekend ceremony commemorating 100 years since the end of the First World War, Mr. Trump said, President Macron of France has just suggested that Europe build its own military in order to protect itself from the US, China, and Russia. Very insulting. But perhaps Europe should first pay its fair share of NATO, which the US subsidizes greatly. The issue of NATO has been a constant source of frustration for Mr. Trump, who the presidency has been built on the foundation of America First policies. Now, I really don't like how all these agencies and different articles and such, they always say Mr. Trump. They don't say President Trump. I feel that that's, again, the wordplay that's manipulating our brains and our minds to make the masses disrespect Trump as our president. Now, I'm not a supporter of Trump. I'm not a supporter of the Democrats, the Republicans. I'm not a supporter of any of the candidacy, period, because presidents are not elected. They're selected and they're placed. But I do feel that using the wordplay and calling President Trump Mr. Trump is a way to make the masses disrespect him even more. He has called on all nations in NATO, the majority of our Europeans, to contribute a minimum of 2% of their GDP towards the cost of the alliance. In his interview with Europe 1, Mr. Macron made clear that he believed the current international situation, including the U.S. pulling out of several international treaties, including the Paris Climate Change Agreement and most recently the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, or INF Arms Treaty, with Russia, and it meant that Europe needed to look after itself. When I see President Trump announcing that he's quitting a major disarmament treaty which was formed after the 1980s Euro missile crisis that hits Europe, who's the main victim? Europe and its security, he said. We will not protect the Europeans unless we decide to have a true European army. So this is scary, people, because in order for this final war that the Bible speaks about in the end times to play out, the Europeans would have to have their own army, and here we have them creating it now. Now, this clip is only 25 seconds long, and you're going to hear me say that from time to time because as small of a channel as I am, I get hit with copyright all the time, like almost immediately, believe it or not. So I figured that every time I use a clip, I would state the length that the clip is, and as long as they're under 30 seconds, I don't know, maybe it's some kind of preventative action or whatever. We'll see how it works out. But again, this clip is under 25 seconds, as are the other two clips I used. So here we go. I'm just going to play this for you guys.
Foot-high, multi-billion-dollar wall can be easily defeated by a $25, 31-foot ladder. What I am relieved is that the demonization of this group of people will end.
Are you saying the prototype doesn't prevent against ladders? I think they took that into consideration, Geraldo.
Walls stop Juan and Maria. The ordinary fruit picker, the babysitter, the lawnmower. They don't stop MS-13 and the gang.
So here again, we have the news agencies broadcasting and showcasing this fence that the migrants supposedly just reached a few days ago. And I want you to listen to the words that Geraldo chose to use in that too, the fruit-picking Juan and Maria. That was meant to trigger a specific emotion. It's a blatantly racial trigger term, and it's meant to achieve a specific response from the brain. It's meant to create a specific targeted reaction. And this is exactly how they are brainwashing the masses. And the reusing of this fence over and over again, well, that could have a ton of different reasons, really. Maybe it's to see who's really paying attention or how well their brainwashing techniques are working. Or maybe it's just because they're a part of their lesser magic and they're just laughing at us. Or even maybe it's just because they're really that lazy and they know that the majority has been dumbed down just enough for it to not really matter. And before the trolls roll in and say that my image of a fence is not the same fence, I would like to present this fence to you in its entirety. So here's my image of the fence, and here's the image, and it's the whole fence in its entirety. Again, this is my image I used a month ago, and this is the fence in its entirety. I promise you, they are one and the same fence. This is most certainly the exact same fence that people were sitting on top of in my 11/11/18 video that I published back on October 29th of 2018. So I would say I got the photo on either the 29th or just a day or two prior to the 29th. So someone please explain to me then how the news is stating that the first people to reach this fence got there just a few days ago, when I have the same images of migrants sitting there about a month ago. When are we going to start receiving some truth here? Seriously. And here's what's going to make November 11th, 2018 significant, I think. This article was published on November 12th, but the meeting took place on 11/11/18. And it reads, White House says Trump sat with Putin, Macron, and Merkel at lunch and discussed key issues. So discussions of sanctions, the INF or nuclear treaty, trade situations, and talks about other major world leaders took place on this day. Here, I'm going to read you guys this article. President Donald Trump discussed several key issues with Russian President Vladimir Putin, French President Emmanuel Macron, and German Chancellor Angela Merkel during a lunch at Elysee, I want to say, Palace, according to the White House press secretary, Sarah Sanders. Today, at lunch, the president sat down with President Macron, Chancellor Merkel, and President Putin, and many other world leaders, Sanders told reporters traveling with the president. The leaders discussed a variety of issues, including the nuclear INF treaty, Syria, trade, the situation in Saudi Arabia, sanctions, Afghanistan, China, and North Korea. Sanders said they had a very good and productive discussions during the 2-hour lunch, which was held at the official residence of the French president. Russian state news agencies reported a brief exchange between Trump and Putin at Sunday's Armistice Centenary ceremonies in Paris. RIA Novosti reported Putin as replying in the affirmative when asked if he was able to talk with Trump in a meeting at the Elysee Palace with other foreign leaders. Asked how the conversation went, according to RIA, the Russian president replied, well. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said the two leaders were able to exchange pleasantries during the working lunch, Russian state agencies reported. So, I found this all to be extremely interesting because they discussed really important issues here, and to discuss different nuclear treaties and trade situations, and then to talk about other major countries and leaders, this is like the preemptive strike of a war, a major war. So Trump and Putin, it would seem, had their very own private conversation with each other that day as well. And personally, I feel that 11/11/18 is already holding major significance. But I would bet dollars to donuts that it's going to hold a whole lot more significance in the years to come. Nobody connected the Archduke's license plate to Armistice Day until after the fact. It wasn't even called Armistice Day until after the fact. 11/11 holds significance, period. Even as a child, we were told to make a wish if we looked at the clock and it was 11/11. So in a way, the number combination holds its own power or magic just because we say so, because we gave it its own power or magic. With no other number do you have small children closing their eyes and wishing upon. Adults even still do this sometimes. So it's almost as if God shows himself to you through these weird little coincidences. Like these repeating numbers or repeating situations like I mentioned earlier. I know I'm kind of all over the place sometimes, but I'm just trying to show you that, to me, these are evidence of God's creation. It's almost like when an artist signs his work. I guess you could say we're currently existing in this running Earth program, and each of us for our own reason, I think. And God leaves us these little clues because he wants us to know that there's so much more than just this. Don't let the idea of a simulation fool you, though. What we do here is still extremely important, and maybe even more so, because if we fail to hold to God's commandments and his statutes, the laws of physics and energy go right out the window. And it's more than just a possibility that one's name could be completely removed from the book of life. Honestly, a simulation theory, time and time again, makes more sense to me, because people say there could be no hell or total annihilation of the devil or evil because of the fact that energy cannot dissipate. It can only change form, and we are a form of energy beings or whatever. Well, first I saw that, God laughs at any law of man's in the first place. So the law of physics, again, like I said, can go right out the window, because any law made by man is just foolish to think that it's a law that God must abide to. But with existence of humanity as a program, God could test each individual soul however he sees fit, and at the end of the program, he could decide to rewrite the original code and void it of Satan and all evil doings and evil things. Revelation even says that after the tribulation, God comes down to earth and lives with us here. Maybe he is perfecting this place, and that's why we experience these strange little coincidences or even the Mandela effect. I honestly have no idea what life is for sure, but nobody really does. But I do know for fact that God is real, and I know that he's been revealing things to me over the past few years, but only as much as I can handle and only as often as I can handle it. It's kind of neat how that works, isn't it? Because I kind of feel like that's how life works for everybody. I want to thank you all for joining me in today's video, and I'm glad that you're still here after my last video of Satan's Christmas. I read all of my comments, and all of my viewers thus far seem to be really intelligent people who can pull themselves out of that box of conformity that the devil has built for man so long ago. And then he decided to name that box government. So, thank you all for joining me. I hope you all will join me in my next video. God bless you guys, each and every one of you. And may we ourselves continue to wake up and wake up others.